just, oh, there it is. I still haven't got the videos to get the start. I'm going to do all that soon, though. Soon my channel will level up.
That wouldn't be very narwhal, though.
I know. I gotta keep it going with the lo-fi. I could start it with the phone right in front of just like playing some video, but I don't know. How is everyone doing? How are you doing, Michael?
Monsieur I'm doing great, actually. I'm doing great. The campaign just passed 45,000 last night, which is pretty crazy. Yesterday, sometime. So yeah, kicking goals. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a great success story and a kind of fun, inspiring the whole story because you did a really good job of hyping it up. Years of building up, which includes years of building up a YouTube channel and helping everyone promote launching their campaigns. And then, yeah, having the response it's had. 45K lettered by Eric Weathers now. And now I just checked, it's going to 50K is the next stretch goal. And that's the Lucent art contest. So I definitely wanted to reach that because I think I want to enter. Are people like me allowed to enter? Can anyone enter?
I would love if you if people like you. Yes, I will accept your kind in the fan art contest if I must.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so I'm excited for all that. But yeah, we got in the chat Hype Wizards here, Mortal V, BS Warren, Linkovich, lots of regulars. So guys, what we're going to try and do, this is the Narwhal nudge versus the Bancroft bump. How much can we help this guy at? Let's see, get a little Narwhal nudge in there. We want to get it to, can we get it to 50,000 in the next 20 minutes? Probably not, but.
Let's go for maybe, I don't know. I mean, is 46 possible? I'll tell you what, Jake was asking about them yesterday. If you scroll down, I don't know if you've refreshed, but if you scroll down a little bit, I've just added the sketch cards. I've put 5 new sketch cards up. I'm doing that weekly. It looks like you need to refresh because they're not up there yet.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I just sent the email out.
This happened like minutes ago then. Oh, they're already sold too. Cool.
Oh my God, they're already sold.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So there's only
that's funny. They're selling faster than you can draw them. But yeah, so people, I'm curious about our overlap. You know, there's no real way to measure it, and there probably I kind of sense it's quite a big overlap, which is cool. But then it means you come on my channel, you're probably not going to get a ton of new sales because a lot of people have already seen it, already backed it. Yeah. But I know there's some out there. We got 16 people watching. I know some of you haven't seen it yet. I like to believe
you never know.
Yeah, and you guys need to know that the Lucent, it's kind of the book of the moment right now, even though obviously Ethan's just launched Cyberfrog as well, but the Lucent and Cyberfrog are like everyone's got their eyes on them. The Lucent is kind of cool because Bancroft came from nothing, just like me and Vaughn, a few other these Comicsgate people, Mandy, kind of just coming out of nowhere and making a name for ourselves, making a career in comics with crowdfunding. And the Lucent's one of the higher profile cool books. It's got a huge positive response from the first book. I mentioned, I told you I missed the first book, but I got the catch up tier. So I'm jumping on the bandwagon now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and Jake just grabbed that Gilgamesh kissing the dead Enkidu. He calls it the he just tweeted he got the necrophilia art.
Yeah. So this is a good example too. Even if you've already backed it, you can grab some of the original art.
Yeah, and they're free shipping. So that's the cool thing. Doing it on my own site because I in a DM group I'm in. Someone was asking, how do I set up the add-ons with the shipping? This doesn't make any sense because if I make it this, I don't want to lose money, but I don't want to cost people money. I'm like, I don't have to worry about any of that. I have a code. Well, I can set items at free shipping, but I also have a code. Free shipping, one word. So if you have backed before, you can back again. You can add stuff on. I don't know what I might add on to this campaign in the second month or whatever. We'll see. And yeah, and that way people can back again without having to get charged shipping. So
yeah,
that's one of the cool things you can do.
Yeah, there's one of the like riddles of crowdfunding is how do you keep the hype and interest going in the middle doldrums of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And then because you're like, well, you could release a new cover, but then you're like, well, then everyone who back before, there's a lot of people who start either waiting because they're like, I know we can release a cover, so I'm just going to wait, or they might be like, what you released? I would have got that. Why are you doing? So there's like these balance, but adding sketch cards with free shipping is a perfect solution to that. That's one possible way.
Oh, Jolly Green just got the biker card. Hail, thank you so much, Jolly Green. It looks like they're probably maybe there's one left. I don't know.
Oh, nice.
Oh
so maybe
God,
we are getting a nice little Bancroft bump here. And I think 20 people watching, but these are the purists too. These are like both are my super fans, and these are your super fans. Some of them, the overlap.
Yeah, and I had an email yesterday from a guy. Speaking of the YouTube channel, just saw the YouTube channel. This is such a great thing to get. Imagine this. So I get an email from a guy. He says, hey, I found your YouTube channel. And I checked out his channel. He does a lot of similar stuff that I do, talking about in the shorts, where entertainment is heading and all that stuff. So that's how he, culture war stuff. That's how he found me. And he's like, I checked you out and I saw you got a crowdfund. I'm a musician. I'm trying to get this album off the ground. Let's hook up. Let's I'll get you on my channel. And I was like, hell yeah, because that's all new people. And it's funny because he was like, I hope you'll have time to come onto my little channel, because he knows me now as this is a guy with 17,000 subs. He didn't realize that 2 months ago I had the same amount of subs as he did. It's so it's funny now how that works. But I'm excited to like you said, get out in front of other people who've never seen me or the Lucent or what I'm doing. It's all good stuff is happening right now.
Yeah, and you're kind of one of the pioneers for sure, thinking a little outside the box of trying to find this, like the expansive markets of, like, the way I kind of sometimes frame the goal is like, how do you get like 1 million sales? Like, which is kind of impossible, but how would you even do that? Like, we don't even know. Like, it's in the 90s that was possible. It's within the crowdfunding, like really good numbers. Like, for example, the highest yet is ISOM, and I think it might have sold like 40,000 of a trade,
something like that,
which is really, really
which
good.
is crazy, because if you think about trades, I think 5 to 10, 15,000 is number one bestseller. For the mainstream guys. So to sell 40, I think he actually went on to sell an extra 10,000 or so over the course of the, just selling the book on his site. So that's numbers that are out of this world on I think it was a $35 book or something. And I think it's already at 20-odd thousand sold on his second one. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm exactly the same. I'm trying to, the great thing about the shorts is they reach a younger audience. They're actually in the key demographic, 18 to 35. They reach people who don't really watch streams. So, a lot of us stream, and that kind of puts us in a little, bubble. They're just people who don't watch streams. And then the shorts get crazy numbers sometimes. We're talking millions of views, multiple millions. And I mean, that to me is just an absolute goldmine of potential people who have never seen you before finally knowing that you exist. And that's all the battle is. Usually people just don't know that we're doing all this cool stuff.
The culture. I was just thinking, like, what was it? The pirate captain, One Piece. They said, this is apples to oranges, but they released the new volume, and it sold 500 million. So I'm like, okay, so 1 million seems so insane to us that it seems unrealistic, but you can set a really high goal and just try it, see how close you can get or whatever. But meanwhile, they're almost at 1 billion is like their high goal, 1,000 times higher. And they're actually getting close to maybe reaching it. And that is like, it's kind of a cultural thing. There's a quality issue, but the quality can come first and then the culture can come. But I don't know. There's like part of
a bit more down to earth. Brandon Sanderson raised 42 million on a Kickstarter for his 4 books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so that's, you know, that is completely outside the realm of our understanding, but I mean, that's a guy. That was a guy writing books who ended, I think he sold to 150,000 readers.
Yeah. And I would guess, I could be wrong, but I would think that comics would have equal or more a bigger audience than big novels. You know, nobody reads anymore. So obviously 150,000 people do, but it's not, big books aren't like, it's not like the Stephen King days where they would sell.
You've got to find people who either don't read or haven't read in a long time to do those sorts of numbers, and that they're some of the best comments you can get. Is this is, and I've received some of them. This is the first graphic novel I've bought in 30 years. You know, stuff like that. I'm like, yes, that's amazing.
Ethan's got a few of those. Like they say, this is my first comic I've ever buying it to support. We're like, thank you, coming into the scene. They're obviously going to buy more than one. So that's kind of this idea too, that it's not a fixed pie. A rising sea raises all ships. We're all kind of helping each other. We're all trying to move this culture. But yeah, I do think like the idea that appeals to me a lot is reaching out, trying to find other circles, and even what would it be? It's like, could you get like the video game people and have them buy their first graphic novel or something? Because then there's like a billion video game people. So,
well, that's how manga does it. So they have the anime and the manga bouncing audiences back off each other, and as well, they actually do it well with. They even have the kind of, you know, with Shonen Jump, they have, so it's almost like a interactive wizard magazine style culture as well, and it's just like this, they're just firing on all cylinders across these complementary kind of markets, and yeah, we could learn a lot from that, I think.
Yeah, and they can put their money where their mouth is. Like One Piece, my ex roommate, who I just got my own place, so I'm living alone now, but I was living with a buddy. He was going through all of One Piece, the anime. So he, in 1 year, that was like his project. So he watched like 900 episodes. You watch 2 or 3 a night, I think. And I'd watch some of them with him. Yeah. And every time I jumped in, I'd only see like one random one. I'd be like, all right, what's going on now? And he kind of explained it to me. It'd take him a while to explain it. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. And I watch a little bit more. I'm like, every arc is like epic and with a lot going on and awesome characters. They kind of do a little bit of the thing where Luffy and his crew, they aren't even necessarily the main characters of any arc. They come into the story like Mad Max kind of, you know, they come into like a pre-existing story that has like a super epic, awesome tale going on, and they get to kind of be pieces on the chessboard within that tale. And he does that over and over again in each. So he's able to tell like multiple stories and keep that story kind of thing going forever that way. But,
yep.
I was going to say with these original art, this is a great idea to supplement the campaign. It all looks pretty great. And then I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You sold a couple kind of high numbers here. The Painted Death cover art sold for 1,500 and the t-shirt sold for 800. So congrats. That's kind of awesome.
They sold in minutes too.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, just, it has been so crazy, just kind of the trajectory that the whole thing has been on. You know, you like you said, I started out with nothing. I started from nowhere. I had no followers, no into the comic book scene. I remember vividly being stuck on 160 Twitter followers and just not being able to move no matter what I did. And I would just end up following all these people, like 2,000 people or something, in a vain hope to get people to follow me back. And it didn't work. I had to unfollow everyone. That was a project in and of itself, unfollowing people.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's been amazing. The people are really invested in the Lucent now, and you know, because obviously I work digital, so these are recreations of work that I've done digitally, and that's very time consuming, you know, because it is hard work to do it again in a traditional piece of paper. But I was like, oh, well, what amount of money would I put it at where I would feel like this is a valuable use of my time? So it's like, oh, let's just go crazy. That cover is going to take me forever. $1,500.
Yeah.
And the first one that I did on the site from the Second Chance campaign, it sold. I was like, what? So I did it again for this one, and it sold in minutes. Yeah, absolutely nuts. And then the same thing for the t-shirt design. I was like, well, this is a less detailed piece of art, so I think this would take me, this amount of time. How much would that be worth to me? 800. Sold. All right, crazy.
Cool.
It's pretty
Are you
nuts.
so you're going over, like, you're kind of printing pencils and then inking it
Yeah.
traditionally?
Yeah.
Are you like enjoying that process, or learning anything new, or getting a new perspective from that process?
I enjoy it. I don't know if I'm learning anything, maybe a little bit. There is a way that you use a traditional pen that is slightly different. Something that I've learned is, the pressure that you put on the pen and the speed of the stroke that you're doing, it does factor in on
Yeah.
the end result that you get. So I've learned that, but I've done a bunch of these now. I've done covers, I've done full art pages. I end up doing 10 art pages, which I won't do again. That's sort of I always feel like I'm treading water when I'm doing that. I'm happy to redo a cover, but a full page is it's a bit much. And it's I really enjoy it. It's something I do at the end of the night, after dinner. I get the little thing out and I sit there. I've got my board and I sit there on the couch with Mel. We watch TV and I've got my head down.
Yeah.
Doing original art.
Cool. What about this Rod Looper? Is that a different artist than you? Who's Rod Looper?
Rod is a different artist than me. Rod is a great artist. Now he's attached to so many books these days. It's about 5 or 6 books. He's in hot demand. I think he's doing one for Neff. He's doing one. The way I found him was through Beyond Time Comics on the Black Dragon.
Yeah,
Book.
this all looks great.
Yeah. And I reached out and I said, hey, would you be interested in doing a little 32-page book for me? Because I want to have extra stuff. And he thankfully said yes. And he works traditionally. So I was like, well, this book isn't going to come out until after Painted Death, but let's sell some pages on the campaign to get you some money in the meantime. And I think we had 10 up for sale. And so we can see we've sold 8 there. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So Fractured Mind is not available on this campaign.
Well, there's an ash can. So I did this on the higher tiers. There's these. So if you scroll down a little bit, it's a little bit different than Indiegogo to navigate. Scroll down. See that you got those campaign perks just underneath that. There, right there. If you scroll down, you'll see there's a little thing you can tick across side by side right there, those arrows. And if you go all the way to the big bundles, you'll see that kind of head sketch ash can thing. So that is a 12-page ash can. And again, I'm printing out my pencils. I don't know if you can see. You can kind of see them there. It's very light, this light. I don't know if you can.
I'll make you big.
Yeah, you see, you can kind of see it there.
Oh,
so I did a pencil sketch of Ella. And I'm inking over that, but I'm inking in pens, like metallic pens. So there's silver, there's bronze, and gold.
Ooh, that's fun.
Which I haven't. Yeah, it's fun. It looks so cool. And that's a little 12-page. I think it's like 8 pages of Rod's art preview of Fractured Mind, and that will come out. Oh, hang on, I'll hold it up. That'll come out after Painted Death fulfills. I only want to do one book at a time. One is enough.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Okay, that's exciting though. And that's kind of a cool way to kind of roll the hype too. Because I saw that, I was like, Lucent Fractured Mind, what is that? Who is Rod Looper?
Yeah.
Who am I?
What is going on here?
Yeah,
because I'm working on the main books. I have a day job, so I'm a lot slower than I'd like to be. And so it takes me a long time to do these books, especially this one, because it's gonna end up being the longest Lucent book of all of them at 100 pages. I probably won't do that again. And so I thought, well, while people wait for my, slowness to get these books out, I could do side books. I could have other guys working on books, on the side while I'm working on my book. And that's exactly how that came about. So this is it's actually a prequel to Waking Dream. It takes place 6 months before the first book. And the cool thing about it is I get this sort of genre hop. It's an action comic. Of course, it's Lucent, so it's a little bit trippy. But it'll be a 32-page action comic. And I've got, Rod's on the art. I haven't found a colorist yet, but I will have to get someone to color it because, again, I want to focus on the main books for myself.
Yeah, Irene has kind of adopted that model.
Yeah.
She's from when you have like pretty successful campaigns, you can get two roads of production going. One is your project, and another's a side project.
Mm-hmm.
I did that too. After Earthbound did well, I got Cerberus. I wasn't the artist for it, and then a handful of the shorts for the compendium. So there's this whole marketplace of productivity coming out of Comicsgate too. Like that's one way. Anyone watching, we got 35 people watching. Like people are coming into it that way too, as like you come in just as a gig guy, taking gigs and getting work, and then you can make a name for yourself that way, launch your own book on the side.
And as well, it's taught me a lot about how to write comics for an artist because I do my own stuff and you're the same, so I don't know how your process is, but I can just kind of jump straight from my random dialogue sort of things and my general plot and just jump right into the pages. But obviously you can't do that if you have an artist you need to work with and they need to know exactly what you want them to do. So that's been an interesting experience. And it took the first script I wrote took a lot longer than I anticipated because I had to write in what I wanted to be happening on all of the panels and stuff. It was an interesting experience.
Yeah, that's cool. I had to do that too. I had to take an old script and pretty much rewrite the whole thing, just adding like the panels, the description, because none of that is there in the version that I do for myself. What about working with artists? And even that, like, do you find a balance of like, letting them run with it, or if the script has enough description, you can let it go, or do you ever see them and you're like, oh, I would have done it slightly different, and you have to resist?
I saw Rini actually gives drawn, like pretty well drawn too, thumbnails.
Yeah,
of the actually pretty detailed pages to the artist and says draw that. Which seems to me a little bit funny. I mean, that's she's really just hiring some, and it's funny, the artist she found does do a similar style to her, so it's like she's just getting another extension to she's getting 2 extra hands essentially. I didn't want to do that. I really dig what Rod is doing, and I want him to feel like he is really part of the whole thing, and he does, man. He comes to me and he's like, I want to do this, I want to do that, let's do that, let's go crazy. And I'm like, yes, just keep that energy, let's go. So cool. I have it in my mind how I see it, and I write it down as best as I can. I don't know, low shot of Ella walking in from the shadows and she's half obscured and stuff like that, and he just runs with it. And not probably even more than 9 times out of 10, more like 49 times out of 50, he nails it. He has a great eye for sort of the kinds of panels I like and the kind of pages I like. And but I just let him go for it. And and I like being surprised because it's never exactly how I envisioned it. But then eventually I sort of forget how I envisioned it, and how he drew it ends up becoming how I see it. So it works.
Yeah, that's cool. That's kind of how it was working with Monica, that she would turn stuff in that was so much better than what I ever could have imagined.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah. And I think with her, the only notes are I have to sometimes just double check the script and make sure like if there's any like continuity type stuff, we got to set something up. I have to I just make sure that that's all still happening. And that's pretty much the only notes I give Monica these days. In the beginning, it was her first animal comic, so there was a little back and forth, and because she was getting better at drawing Lee like page by page, so I actually paid a little extra to have her redraw like Lee from the first 10 pages.
Like I'm gonna have to do that. Yes, I'm gonna have to do that with Rod as well. He's gotten so good now at drawing Ella, way better than I draw her.
Yeah,
that's just a style thing. That's cool. I'm super happy with that. And so now we're gonna have to go back to some of those first pages, and there's some of those kind of close-up face shots. It's like it's not exactly right, but I knew that from the get. I was like, okay, let's just put a pin in that, and we'll come back to it. So yeah, I will pay him to redo a couple of them, but not many. He really is pretty awesome at what he does.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's exciting. And yeah, the free art. So I want to take a minute. We got 43 people watching. That's pretty high for me. Bancroft bringing in some celebrity status, boost my channel.
My milkshakes, they're bringing everyone.
Yeah. Well, I drink up your milkshake. That's what I'm doing right now. While you're here, everyone, sub to my channel. And yeah, we're hanging with Bancroft. We're trying to get him a little narwhal nudge. Some of this free shipping art just came up. Some new sketch cards. I actually might reload and we'll see. Yeah, they all sold. So I bet you it definitely went up a lot. I forgot to look. It went up at least 200, I think, since we were looking.
Yeah, it was on 235, so almost exactly $200. Cool. Hail Narwhal Gang.
Yeah, thanks.
There's a name for that.
Sean, $10. Nos for bros. Nos fair bros for life. Totally. Sean, we got.
He says Hail Bance. That's his nickname for me, Bance.
Nice. Yeah, but Sean, let's stream again soon. What I wanted to see what you're up to. You gotta launch a new book or something so you can promote some stuff and do a big tour. But we can just do another round of promoting Nosfero too. Yeah, Hype Wizard says Narble. Yeah, 42 people. Yeah, so 200. That's a pretty. Thanks for releasing some sketch art, because that might have sold no matter what, but it's definitely sold while you're on with me. So.
Oh, I make everything work in conjunction, with each other.
Yeah, that's a good plan. I wonder. So. Yeah, just taking a second and chilling, and we'll keep hanging out a bit, but we got the main, we're promoting the book, we're hanging out. Let's just talk a little bit about any advice for anyone, but I might take some of your advice because I'm going to launch a campaign pretty soon too. And things that are work, because you're doing a lot of stuff, you tried a lot of stuff. Things are, the original art seems like it's working really good.
Yeah, I got that idea from Phil Diaz, who also does the same thing. When he's running a campaign, during the campaign period, every week he releases new sketch cards that he gets from the various artists that he works with. I saw that. I thought it was a fantastic way to get people back on the campaign page. And that's really a really hard thing, is to, even after they've backed, or maybe they haven't backed, to get them to come back and have another look at it. And I thought, so one thing he did was like, well, I'll put out regular sketch cards so people have a reason to come back. And I was like, yep, I'll take that. Thank you very much. That's really how this whole thing works, is people do stuff that works. We take that. People try stuff, doesn't work as much. We drop that. And then every campaign, everyone's getting a little bit better. And I try to really learn from that in everything. And I think that's how the whole you have to launch on a stream came about. Before, people just they launched and then they went on stream, and we found out, well, actually you're missing out on a lot of energy there. So all that sort of stuff, putting backer numbers, shouting out backer numbers in the chat, that sort of stuff, it's all it's all in service of making it all a bit more fun.
Do you have 2 covers for part 2 or 3 even?
So what I'm doing there is I've got the I've got the soft cover version for Painted Death, and obviously I have the second edition. So that's already printed. That's already exists. So that's the second edition of Waking Dream, the first book.
Yeah.
As a soft cover. So that you can get on the campaign as well in a catch-up tier. But you know, I got into this through European French novels, bande dessinée. So you know, like these. So I always wanted to do these. This is my kind of goal from the beginning, was to have my own book of these.
Yeah.
It seemed like a little bit of a fantasy at the time, but you know, now anything's possible. Plenty of people are doing hardcovers. So my thought was, well, I don't really like variants. It's not really ever been my thing. But I like editions. You know, I've got the first edition, the second edition has a new cover. All right, well, these are the hardcover editions, and all the best hardcovers that I love from France have, regardless of what art they have on the interiors, they have this really nice painted cover. So I wanted to do the same. So I painted up these two covers. The one on the left is Painted Death. The one on the right is Waking Dream. So yeah, there's two hardcover covers, two softcover covers. So four covers all up over two books.
Cool. Yeah, that's helps. Like, what do you know what your average backer amount is? Is it like 80 to 100, or is it even a little
Yeah, I
higher?
think I can actually go in and look at that in my, I think it was about 80,
Okay.
which is amazing, because over the last, ever since I've really done crowdfunding, I've managed to get a lot of people to back, but the backer average order value was sort of probably hovering around $35 or something.
Yeah, that's I
And I
remember
think,
early CG it was always like 40, and nowadays it's like more like 80. If you can get it that high, that really obviously helps a campaign make a lot of
well,
money.
I think a lot of the times it's got to do with, have you done a campaign before? And I think if you have, and you're selling catch-up tiers and stuff, and you have extra editions or extra books, supplementals, stuff like that. I've added t-shirts this campaign, lots of puzzles, original art, you know. So I just have more stuff to sell. Yeah, average order value is at $79.75.
Oh,
So
sweet.
that's pretty amazing. And yeah, you know, I don't think you're going to get that straight out of the gate on your first book. It's sort of a, you know, second book and subsequent books sort of thing. And we saw that with Renee, you know, her first campaign to her second, it's just to the moon.
Yeah, yeah, because then you have a lot of new readers coming in buying both. And even like there it's even like in my case, like I saw the Lucent and I was always thinking about backing it and I just somehow didn't. So then the opportunity comes again and I'm like, yeah, I'll get both this time. So you have people that it's kind of maybe been sitting in their head and their subconscious for years even, you know, and so a lot of those backers will be coming in. That's one thing too, is I think so it's at 569 backers in like a matter of days, really. And yeah, that's really nice because you're obviously, we know campaigns have a really good close, but you have this strategy to kind of keep up the interest as it's going to. And I do think you're going to have just kind of like people just filtering in and backing the whole way through. So it definitely, I mean, we'll see where it goes, but it feels like six figures could definitely be it like and I
Fingers
feel like,
crossed.
yeah, I feel like that might happen like guaranteed, but that might happen like soon, which would be awesome.
Well, I don't know about that, but it would be awesome. I'm going to do the same thing that I would have done on Indiegogo. I will extend the campaign, but I think what I'll probably do is I'll take off those ash cans. So that the second 30, like that's going to be the kind of turning point in the campaign, which could actually, it means okay, you know, because I do have to sort of limit the amount of ash cans I have to draw. I think it's at about 100 now. And you know, that now you start getting into territory where like, hey, this is going to take a very long time to you know, to do all these. And also as well, I have noticed that some people, they don't necessarily want the ash can. They just want the books, the 4 books together in a bundle, so I'll be able to add that as a bundle as well. Because the bundles are where you get the best deal per book. If you just get the one book, you pay the maximum price, $25, plus it's a $15 flat shipping rate. If you get the bundle, it's a $15 flat shipping rate across multiple books, and I add a little discount, 10 or $15, depending on how high you go, on top of it as well. So
yeah, and you're doing shirts. Is that a separate like fulfillment service handles that, or are you getting the orders and you're ordering all the sizes?
yeah, that's what I'm doing. I spoke to Adam Lawson about it because he's had good success on his shirts, and he said to me, whatever you do, quality. You don't want the first shirt getting around and everyone kind of grumbling about the print quality or the t-shirt quality or anything like that. Make it a little bit more expensive and make it quality, and then people will just hear that out there. Oh, I got the Lucent shirt. It's really good quality. So I am screen printing them at a local place just around the corner, which is amazing. And that company is all about traditional screen printing, using the actual inks and stuff, plastisol inks, on high quality t-shirts and stuff. So I to do that, I can't just sort of print on demand. I have to get quantities. So I'll probably print up 100 tees. I think we've sold about 65 or odd. So that works out. And I will just ship them out. The way I'm doing it is I've got these bags. So I've got the mailer, and the mailer goes into one of those bags, shipping bags. I can just slide a t-shirt in there. I can slide a puzzle in there and ship it all out in one package.
Yeah, yeah, because you don't have like a media mail type situation really, because it's all international almost anyway. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. But we were able, because of the success of the first campaign and the subsequent campaign, and I got in with Rob Arnold, who's, he goes through my shipping as well. I was able to secure a really good deal with Australia Post. That's how I'm able to get the prices as low as I do, a flat, international $15 shipping rate. And as well, I subsidize that by helping other people post out their books in Australia. So we just fulfilled Cash Grab, the Australian contingent of that.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. How many
so
how many Aussies bought Cash Grab? Is that a number you can reveal?
we're about 150, I think.
Okay, yeah. See, there's a lot of comic readers in Australia. I know that just when I'm shipping out, it's 30.
Yeah, and I think more would back if the shipping was more reasonable. And I love it when people come to me and say, "Hey, can I go through you?" And then they can lower their shipping rates to Australia in the knowledge that as long as they get 20, 30 backers, yeah, you don't have to charge crazy amounts. You can charge a reasonable rate, bulk ship them to me, and I'll post them out locally. I know it's a little bit of a gamble, but if I think, especially the bigger guys, like a guy like the tier like Graham Knoll and Aaron Lopresti, I think if those guys were able to lower their shipping rates to I think probably about 15 to 20 US, I think they would easily sell 100, 150 books to Australians, and then they could just fulfill them through me and not lose any money on it.
Yeah,
But we're getting there.
cool. Real quick, Viper says received Cerberus yesterday and finished reading it today. Amazing comic and art. Thank you, Narwhal. You're welcome, man. Bancroft read it too. Bancroft likes it also.
Cerberus is a great book. I'm really looking forward to reading the second part of it.
Oh yeah. Bemis says haven't read it, but it looks killer. Snuggy wants his. Snuggy, did you get an email? I'm just curious because I still have to send out about 300. I'm sending out 200 tomorrow, and then there's a hardcover of Cave Slave that it's got delayed, and I'm waiting. Hopefully tomorrow they'll tell me when I'll actually get it. But so that'll be the last backers. I sold about 50 of those, So 50 back, and I might end up just shipping it separately. But those will be the very last people to get the book, and that I might launch Grand Prix before that even fulfills. So I'll let those people know, like, I'm good for it. You're going to get your book, but that tier specifically got slowed down for whatever reason. And I'm doing that. But yeah, the shirts. So you've sold 65 so far, and I mean that'll by the end it might.
Yeah, if you click on that, you'll actually tell you how many I've sold. If you click on the thing, it'll jump up to in there, and there's a little number down there.
69.
69. Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm printing up because they did quite well, and there seems to be interest in them. I'm printing up a variant of that shirt in different colors as a sort of limited run. I'll probably print about 30 and take them to Tampa and sell them to people at Tampa so they can get them now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the shirt. Like, so I tried it and I kind of did it wrong. Like, I made some of the mistakes that you were just saying to not do, I guess. But like, one of the things I did is I got all excited. I'm like, I'm going to screen print it myself. And so I got all the screen printing shit, and it was pretty cool. People who got their shirts, they're still kind of cool, but it's like amateur screen printing.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like the quality wasn't super great, and it just says Earthbound on just like a boring black tee, not even the really good fabric. And I was like, man, maybe if I try it again, I might just do it where you order, just printed shirts, but have it be really cool art. A big section of the shirt is taken up by art, good fabric. You can charge a little bit more. And
yeah, I was a screen printer. I did that for many, many years.
Oh yeah.
So I know all about how difficult it is to screen print at a quality level. So I was very interested to seeing how you went there. And also I think the Diaz brothers do it as well. Yeah, there's a lot of little finicky kind of intricate things to screen printing and keeping the quality up over a long run.
Yeah, because they change over time. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's tricks you can do with that and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, to me, I sold all my screen printing equipment ages ago. Moving on to greener pastures, but I wouldn't even do it anymore, even if I could. I think I'd rather just pay, because when I say they're doing it traditionally at this place, I mean they have massive machines that do the actual screen printing, so it's like perfect every single time, and it's all but they use actual screens, and that it's just there's something about it, and I designed this shirt with really nice colors. I want that proper screen printing ink, that sort of sits on top of the fabric the way it does. And I don't know, there's something about it. I still love t-shirts and really cool printed t-shirts. I have hundreds of them myself. It's like a little collection I have from my days back when I used to do t-shirts. So I want my t-shirt to be one of the ones out there where people say, oh yeah, that t-shirt, that's a great t-shirt. And to the design, anyone can wear that. I had people, because I post a lot on my community section on YouTube. So that's a lot of people who sub to my channel who just watch shorts. So they don't really know too much about what I'm doing. But I've had a lot of people say, oh, that's cool. I don't know what that is, but it looks rad. I'd totally wear that.
Oh,
yes, that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking, like, it's a cool, like, poster cover design. It could be other stuff, but it's kind of cool that it's just the shirt too. It's like a really cool piece of art dedicated for the shirt. Real quick, Snuggy Jr. says, by the way, we got 55 more people. The celebrity of Bancroft is paying off. I'm reaping the benefits. Yeah.
Read it out.
But he says sketch cards already sold out. There's obviously they're selling so fast. Does that leave a question in your head? Like, A, you could charge a little more, or B, you could draw a bunch more. It's like this supply and demand kind of question. Are you thinking about that? Like, shoot, I just need to bang out like 100 more and put them out for sale or something. Or
Well, I think the reason that they do sell out is they are a bit exclusive,
yeah,
and they're cheap, and there's free shipping on them. So I think there's a line that you would get to where if you were just pumping them out, they become less special. And the art itself, I'm essentially taking art from the book. These are little previews of just sort of small sections of the book. And they're kind of, so there's a limited amount of that I can work with. So I think it's a sort of like a cool little add-on thing. And plus, I think $25 is the appropriate price for what they are. I mean, they're trading card sized, little things here. So I think that's an appropriate price for where I'm at as an artist and the actual product you get. I'm happy to do them. I really find they're fun. I can do a couple of these a night, just while watching a TV show, no problem. So yeah, look, no, I think it's an extra little fun thing to do. But I mean, it's great. It's a great problem to have. Are they sold out straight away? I mean, I sent the email out to say that they were up, literally as I was popping in to say hi to you. And you showed it straight away. 2 were gone. So
yeah, that's awesome.
being quick, I suppose.
By the way, in the chat, I do have a question. If you're here and didn't know about the Lucent, then let me know in the chat. I'm just curious. There's probably no one, or that number might be kind of low, but I'm always curious about that statistic of like, where is the overlap of the Venn diagrams and stuff, and people finding
there must be some. I think everyone, we all do sort of feel like we are kind of all streaming to the same people, but really any chat I go into, there's always people in the chat that definitely aren't regulars on my show. And so even if they might have heard of it or seen it before, they're not really plugged in. They're not, paying too much attention. So
something,
I don't know how big it is.
Yeah, something that happens from that kind of doing like the tour too is I don't know like the science behind it, but I know this has got to be true where people will like, see it, hear about it by the third, fourth, fifth time, then they pull the trigger. And they might have been interested from the first time, but they just don't get around to it, or they're not quite there, or they don't have the money this week or whatever. So just the fact of kind of like being out there and promoting it.
Hyper Wizard says that as well. He says you need to have seen it 5 times before you consider backing it, and I think that's a pretty good rule. I mean, I don't know how scientific it is, but it bears out to me anecdotally. I get guys who come on sometimes, and I just like, I'd never heard of this book before. It's a really hard sell for the crowd unless it's really spectacular. It's a really hard sell because they're not invested in it. They don't know about it. That's why I did that. I did a 30-day countdown where I was tweeting almost every day and putting up community posts almost every day, like 27 days, this is happening, save the date, just to really, really hammer it home. And I think that ended up, I got that from Joe Sontag too. He did that. And I think it ended up paying dividends because, people came out in force on day one. They were primed. They couldn't have been more primed to back on day one. So it really worked. That's
cool. Hype Wizard says, I got mine from the email. Hype Wizard, I'm going to ban you if you keep taking away my credit as.
This is the narwhal nudge, Hyper Wizard.
Yeah.
Don't get things confused.
Hype Wizard is lying, everyone. He came on the stream, then he saw the sketch card, then he backed it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the other thing is it Ella or it's Ella probably.
Ella, yep.
Yeah, she's pretty. That's a good, always a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I mean, everyone is pretty and good looking, other than the old people.
Yeah.
But I mean, we know how stories work.
Yeah, it's a funny like challenge as a developing artist is like at any point, what's the like most attractive person you can even draw? Because if you're in high school just learning, you can't even draw like a hot girl. But then as you get
No,
better,
yeah, I've actually shared that in the digital stuff. I've got extras, and in there I've got the first drawing I did of her. And yeah, she wasn't very attractive.
was she
Uh,
Butterface?
she wasn't unattractive. It was, she looked like she could have been attractive if she were real, but the artist, me, couldn't really replicate that. So it didn't come through. She had kind of really bumpy lips. I've shown that off on streams a bunch of times, but eventually, yeah, you hone it down. Just like with crowdfunding, that's the way I do it with art. I always reference my own art. Like, how did I draw it last time? And then I say, okay, that looked really good. That didn't look as good. I'll try that. I'll try to do something better there. It could just be even, the curve of the side of the nose or the shape of the eyes or whatever it is, the thickness of the lips. I don't know. And then I take that and move forward. And then over time, it gets better and better looking. And that's how I improve pretty much. Just like leave the bad stuff, take the good stuff, move forward like that. And it's working so far.
Yeah, that's cool. I sometimes do that too, where you kind of use the reference from the older panels that look good and kind of build a character sheet. You don't have to even draw a character sheet. You can make, all right, I done it in the past. That's actually another kind of funny artist thing, because there can be frustration from that. And there can even be, if you're having like a bad day or do a drawing where she doesn't look good, then you can like panic. You have to fight off the panic. You're like, I've lost it. I'll never draw her good again the rest of my life. And you're like,
well, yeah, I mean, you must have this as well, because you write and you color and you draw, and you're probably not doing all three of those things every single day. So at least I'm not, so there can be whole months where I'm just coloring or I'm just drawing. And then I come back to the other thing. I'm like, oh God, how do I do this again? What are the steps here? And then, it's kind of like you're getting back on the bike for the first time. You're a little bit wobbly at the start. But it always comes back eventually.
Yeah. This reminds me, okay, it's Donnie Cates, I'm pretty sure, who we all kind of make fun of a little bit. And he's actually not even that bad of a writer. Like, he's maybe a good writer, you might even say, but he's like
I've read some Cates. It was pretty good. I read some Thanos.
But I saw something from him that it made me laugh. And I'm like, shit, but I'm also like, whatever. I can sort of relate, but also, Cates, you're a bitch. But he was saying like he's scared that he might like age, or even just a few years. Like, people have a prime. He's worried his prime is going to end when he turns 40 or whatever. So he takes brain pills every day, and like supposedly maybe watches his diet, and he cherishes his little brain that gives him good ideas. He cherishes it so much. and I'm like, Cates, you little bitch, like, come on, just chug some beers and chips fall where they may. But then I'm like, shit, I sometimes worry about that too. If I haven't written in a while and I have a bad day writing, I'm like,
look, I think it's probably not that. It's probably not your brain is deteriorating. I don't think that happens to most people before the age of 70 or 80 or something like that. I think more likely it's like a band. They come out, they have that big album, they just really caught lightning in a bottle, and then you're just never really gonna do that again. You'll put out good stuff, sure, but it's just you're judging yourself against the peak of where you just resonated with the crowd, rather than judging yourself from before you even started, when nobody was watching you, and you're like, well, you're still putting out good music, you're still writing good books. Judge yourself against that.
Yeah. And that's like, Tarantino kind of talks about that, and that's why he only wants to make 10 movies. And that's like debatable too. That's kind of in that Cates realm too, where you can kind of make fun of it. But I know what even though it's a little bit relatable, but Mark Millar, he's like 55 or something now. I don't exactly know how old he is, but I saw in one interview he was talking about that, and he was just saying he likes the stuff he's writing now. It's like his favorite. So as long as that's kind of happening too, that is a nice little barometer that you're like, it's not.
That's the thing. I mean, it might be your favorite stuff. It might not be the favorite stuff with the audience, or it might be who knows. But like Mark Miller, he's got just a sort of energy around him, a sort of a mindset. Clearly, if you ever follow, what he says and stuff, and yeah, it, you just kind of have that energy. You put it out there, and I think it gets reflected in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, what about someone like Frank Miller, who is a legend? And I don't even want to besmirch his name, but people could hold him up as an example of what they're scared of is like, oh, I don't want to like work too long into old age where I'm making weird stuff that people are roasting and making fun of.
Well, that to me is like that looks to me as if like, okay, and he isn't even that old, but he looks old. I mean, he's like
yeah, he was
Lincoln
chugging
in the
beers the
Civil
whole
War.
time. Yeah.
People like you've aged 10 years since, and I saw you 6 months ago. So
Yeah.
but that just to me feels like he's not putting in the effort that he
Oh,
once
yeah.
did. It's not to say that it's not. I mean, it's different. I know a lot of. I did a short on this actually, at least with art wise. A lot of people love what he's doing now. They really think it's something pretty cool and interesting and bucking the trend, and that's fine. That's cool. But yeah, if you want that kind of high effort, really intricate kind of stuff, whether it's writing or art, yeah, I guess at a certain age, that just becomes less and less possible. Although you got guys like Dal Keown, who's doing more detailed art now than he ever did when he was younger. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. And with Frank Miller, so there's a Napoleon quote where he says, you have to change your tactics every 10 years or else people are going to beat you. But that applies to artists a little bit more. Like I think one angle is it's almost self entertainment art. You got to change your tactics or your kind of almost like your style even. But just to keep the juices flowing of the fun of like the freshness or whatever. But then it happens with like hitting lightning in a bottle, like you're saying. Like Frank Miller did that, and he did it at least twice because he did it for Sin City also. And Sin City was like he changed his tactics and then he hit it again. Tarantino did that. So a lot of these like people that we consider the best, they kind of peak and then so they change, start over from scratch, peak again. And it's kind of amazing. It's like, well, how often
A
can you
good example of this is in the poker world, because in poker you actually have a real thing you can point to, which is winnings. So you can actually look at people. It's not subjective. There are people who are winning and there are people who aren't. And you get the same thing. So the people that were winning in the 2000s were not the same people who are winning in the 2010s or now in the 2020s. But there are the very rare number of people, and they're very small and rare, who do manage somehow to stay winning at the top levels of poker decade after decade. And they absolutely do. And there is always that period of about 2 or 3 years where they have to catch up to what the new hungry up and comers who are all trying new crazy things in the game are doing now that take over the game. And they have to relearn everything that they knew. And they were experts, world-class experts in the game who were making millions of dollars 5 years ago, who are now getting the pants beaten off them by these young, crazy Scandinavian or Japanese players or something who just completely do everything different now. And it's very rare. It's a very rare player who's able to roll with the punches, relearn, unlearn, and then come out and be successful again. And so I feel like there's definitely a parallel between what you do in creative world and in that world, except in poker you actually get to see the results rather than just, oh, I like it, or I didn't think that worked, or something like that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't know that you're a little bit of a poker connoisseur. Do you
Oh yeah, I used to play. I was that's what I did for a living for about 2 or 3 years back in the day. At some point it was like 2009, sometime like that.
Cool.
Yeah, so I was so engrossed in that world. And it was actually when I started getting into the comics seriously, I had to make a decision, because the comic can take over your life, or the poker can. I couldn't do both. And when I was, the comic hadn't really taken off yet. I was just doing webtoon or whatever. I did try to walk both, like, a feet in both worlds, and it didn't work because you really do have to focus on one or the other if you're going to be good. You don't want to, if you try to do both, you're going to be kind of mediocre at both of them. So
Yeah. I remember some of your lore of doing the web comic, and that was, yeah, like pre Comicsgate, and it was like very successful numbers wise, but not monetary wise. But was that the Lucent, or was that a different story? I forget that.
No, that was the Lucent, and a funny story. It started off as the Woken.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing the term woke being used, seeing it being used, and I remember thinking, oh God, I hope that doesn't take off. And because then, but Webtoon eventually said, oh, we're running a competition. If you put out a weekly updates over the next 3 months, you had the potential to become featured creator. We're going to pick like 3 creators or something, and it was fantasy sci-fi. That was the genre, because they don't actually have that much fantasy sci-fi on Webtoon. It's more romance sort of stuff. So I thought, well, that's a perfect opportunity. So I um I I rebooted everything. I call it the Lucent, and just amazingly, Webtoon really liked it and started promoting it on their homepage. Big banner. I remember getting that email like, "Hey, we want to do a big banner of your book on our homepage." Like, are you kidding? Like, this site gets tens of millions of views a day, probably.
Yeah.
And I was like, homepage banner. Now, the Lucent isn't really the kind of story that crowd wants to read, but there definitely are people there. And because the numbers, I was able to, I think ended up with 25,000 subs on my book, and I would get
Cool.
hundreds of comments and thousands of likes. And it was an amazing experience. It was fantastic. But again, yeah, it was really, there's no money in it. It was really just you're getting paid in dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Oh, I really love this. This is great. Keep going. Or like, I really like that. Actually, that was how it actually helped me with my writing, because they didn't really critique so much, which is, it's sort of like, people don't really come up to you and tell you all the things that they hate about what you're doing. They do on YouTube, but
Yeah.
not in other places. They more just tell you what they liked. So I was able to kind of glean through deduction what was working and what wasn't, and it really did
Oh,
help me with my story. And
that's
because
awesome.
you're putting it out, because you're putting it out episodically,
Mhm.
1 or 2 pages at a time, you can kind of let it help guide you. So it was a great experience overall. But yeah, when Comicsgate came around, I was like, oh, well, these are my people. I was very apolitical. I didn't get involved in anything when I was in Webtoon, because I imagine it's very kind of um
Yeah, like you say something, you might get
that way.
canceled. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas, yeah, I felt like, oh, with CG, I can just be myself. I don't have to hide any of that. And there's a potential to make people actually making money here. And I knew if I could make money in CG, then I could take the book more seriously and spend more. I could justify actually spending a lot more time on it. And that's exactly how it's gone down.
yeah, that's a
So
really cool origin story, and it makes it makes sense, and it feels natural that you would find more and more success in Comicsgate, and yeah, it's like just deserved, and you've been working hard from the
I
beginning.
didn't
You
know
gave
that
up.
it
You gave
would.
up
I didn't know
poker.
that it would, though. What was that?
You gave up poker for this, so come on.
I did. I really did, which was hard because I was a bit of an addict. Uh,
Yeah,
but you just had to be done. And I made a lot of money in poker, but it was unfulfilling. I guess you could say, kind of spiritually. I was making a ton of money, but the year would come to a close, and I'd say, what have I done this year? Just money. There's nothing. I didn't have anything I could look back on other than a graph of
yeah,
wins and losses and stuff. So I realized after about 2 or 3 years of doing it that there's a need there a calling, you know, to create something that I would much rather be making a lot of money with a creative thing like a book rather than making a lot of money with poker. You know, if I had the choice, I just recognized it was going to be a lot harder and a lot more of
Yeah.
a, ironically, a lot more of a gamble to
Oh
go
yeah.
down
Yes. Like you
the
were
book
saying,
path.
it was a leap of faith, and there was some risk, and there was some
Yeah.
periods where you're working on it and you're not sure how it's going to work out, even for like
Oh,
the
there were
YouTube.
times in the webtoon before it kind of took off, you know, in the early days. Actually, this might be before webtoon when I was just on Tapas, which is another site,
Yeah.
where I would work a full month on an update and then put it out there, and it's just full crickets. No
Yeah.
comments, no likes, nothing. You don't even get, not only you're not getting paid, you don't even get your dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those were the like the dark
And
periods.
you know, it's cool though, like you didn't give up from that. That's a good, we all have a little bit of that in common, I think, where like probably you, me, and Vaughn, because and anyone else who's kind of coming up, because no matter what, when you start, it is like you're playing to an empty auditorium or whatever, and you have to continue on
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. And it's the same on YouTube as well. You know, you start from nothing and you put up videos and no one watches. I
Yeah.
sunk my so much effort into kind of drawing videos and stuff, and get, you know, the odd view on. I don't think they watched much of it at all. You know, get 20 views on something, and it's, yeah, it is demoralizing. But you got to look to, well, hey, all these other people have made it, and you know, I look at their channels. I've been doing it for years, so all right, stick with it, keep going, find what works, and you know, eventually it did work. But yeah, there is that long period of time where you're kind of walking through that dark tunnel of obscurity, just hoping that there's going to be a light on the other end of it.
Yeah. Yep. So we can kind of start wrapping up here. 67 people watching. Everyone, thanks for being here. Bancroft, thanks for bringing in the celeb status. 67, that's pretty good.
I'm
While you're
happy to
here,
do it.
yeah, while you're here, sub to my channel. Check out some of my new vids too. That's another one Bancroft saw, is the Matrix video. Check
I
out the
love that video because you articulated things that I knew to be true, but I hadn't articulated yet. Because I've been going around saying, I love it when I put in real historical people into my story. It just adds so much gravitas. It adds so much fun. And that's all I was saying, but I didn't realize. And what I'm saying there is I'm making the story real, and that, you know, you, the reader, it's in your world, but you just don't know it's happening because
yeah,
you don't have access to it. You know, you're not one of these rare people who are, you know, somehow tapped into it. But you can go and look in the story. Like, I have a character called Artemis, real historical person. You can Google all sorts of names that I have in my thing, and go look up, research them. They were real either legendary or mythological or actual historical people. And you know, so you get grounded with that sense of, this is real, like this actually is happening right now, just outside of my view. I think that just makes the story that much more engaging and better. And I really, it was actually Jake who shared that with me. He was like, you got to check out this video. I think it like links in with what you're doing. And I really thought that was great video.
yeah. After I heard the Lucent pitch, I was like, oh, it's exactly what I'm talking about. So it's cool. You definitely appreciated it. You know what? How that came out too? I think it's kind of because some of these movies from the late '90s, they've kind of hit that cycle where they're coming back in favor. Like, and some of these are like epic movies that never really left, like The Matrix, Fight Club, but one of them is like American Psycho. All are from the kind of the same era, and they're all
Yep.
kind of becoming rediscovered. And The Matrix, yeah, you can take a look at it at any point. You're like, man, that movie's so good. But I hadn't seen it in a while, and I was just thinking about it, and I was like, I love when Neo says, what is the Matrix? Because it means he already knew about that there was a Matrix out there, and he's already been looking for it. And there's just rumors, and there's this like lore of hackers that kind of know what it is. And then it's like, yeah, it could totally exist in our world or whatever, but we just haven't heard it yet or whatever. So yeah, it just, the Matrix is a big part of obviously why
The Matrix is such a brilliantly constructed film, editing, story-wise, everything. I watched a video on it a while ago where someone pointed out that all of the threads in the Matrix, the different threads, is Neo the one? Can they is what Morpheus saying is true, that the one will be able to remold the Matrix and how he sees fit? Is what Trinity thinks is true, what the Oracle said about how she would love the one and everything? All of that culminates in one single point in this great climax when he comes back to life and ends up fighting Smith. And it's just such the whole movie just into this one moment where all of these threads are come to fruition in this glorious moment at the end. And it's such a great film. I wish it hadn't have gone on, but look, it did, and whatever. I was incredibly inspired by that film to get off my ass, and I sort of had this idea for the Lucent for decade, probably longer, and I just hadn't done anything with it. I was like, wow, that's the kind of story I would like to tell. I would do it differently, and I am doing it differently. But it really kind of lit a fire under me to, hey, look, this awesome thing was made by these people. You get out there and make your own. So I attribute a lot of inspiration to that movie.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great thing to take inspiration from. It's obviously it is like a ultimate classic. It's like one step beyond classic. I think it's like really worth studying and looking at. But yeah, 71 people watching. I want to say real quick too, Grand Prix, the new Earthbound book, that'll be my next campaign. And yeah, that's launching soon, probably this weekend. So a matter of days. So everyone just keep an eye out. It will be a big launch, but I don't know what we're doing yet. I'm sure BANCROFT, I'll stream with you at some point about that.
Yep. I've got all next week open. So just let me know if you want to jump on and we'll go through it.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. And yeah, everyone, thanks for being here. 570 got one extra backer while we're talking. I think it's been like 250 or
Thank
so
you.
that went up. And thanks for talking to me, BANCROFT. It's very inspiring. The whole story's cool. It's actually nice hearing a little bit of your lore, even beyond like what I knew. I've learned hearing about the poker stuff is fascinating. And it's interesting you mentioned, but the poker stuff does apply. Like anytime you're trying to pursue mastery, that it can apply.
Yeah.
Like, these are skills that carry over.
I use skills that I learned during that period of my life every day. And it's sort of like, that kind of don't give up. It's not going to go your way every day, but if you keep at it and you stay sharp, eventually over time it pays off. And that's the lesson you learn from poker. I feel like everything in my life really was leading up to me doing what I'm doing right now, picking up all these skills. It's almost like a manga. It's like it's like one of those animes where I collected all these skills over a long period of time, and now I just kind of come out seemingly out of nowhere.
Scott Adams calls that a talent stack. Have you heard of that term before?
No, I just fell out of listening to Scott Adams for a while, but that sounds clever. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, it's just like the idea that being really good at one thing is not as good as being pretty good at 5 things that all work together. So you can be your own vertically integrated little like worker person, and it all kind of helps. And that totally seems to be true as far as I can see with stuff. But so with that, I think we'll probably get out of here. I end it kind of awkwardly on my channel. Don't have outro videos at BANCROFT. Anything you want to say? Like, check out BANCROFT on Twitter and YouTube. Obviously, check back this campaign. It's doing great. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. Michael BANCROFT is the YouTube, at the Lucent Comic is the Twitter, and the site is thelucentcomic.com.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks everyone for being here. 73 people watching. It's always fun when the numbers get kind of high. That's some dopamine that I need.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. That's all. I'm always worried that in the future those numbers are all fake and we're all just getting fake dopamine and they're just like bots controlling us or whatever.
Could be. We're in the matrix.
Yeah. So give a M in the chat. I don't know what M stands for. Mommy, if you're a real person.